So welcome everyone today to our webcast, Schedules Inside and Out using Autodesk Revit. We have Martha Hollowell with us today from ASCENT. She is trained in instructional design, plus she is also an Autodesk certified instructor, and she holds her Autodesk Certified Professional designation for Revit architecture. So in other words, she knows a lot. And I'm going to pass things now over to Martha.
Thanks, Corrine, and welcome to everybody. Hello. Welcome to Schedules Inside and Out. Today what I'm going to be doing is taking you through Chapter 2, or parts of Chapter 2, of our BIM Management Template and Family Creation Guide. We are going to be having the new version out, 2018, by the end of next week. It will be available. Someone did ask earlier, everything I'm covering today also works in 2017, probably all the way back to 2014. So I'm not really positive. You know, little things come in here and there, but this is probably the biggest change was earlier in the schedule's life. As a matter of fact, I covered this material, or the parts of this, in a webinar several years ago, and there's some new tools that came out in 2014 that really make schedules better. So I want to point those out to you specifically today. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to create and modify schedules for basic building components. I'm going to focus on the building component side of schedules, doors, mechanical equipment, footings, plumbing fixtures, that sort of thing. We're going to make the schedules more readable using formatting tools for titles and headers. We're going to add images. We're also going to work through how to create key schedules. That wasn't actually in the little information that went out, but as I was preparing it, I was going, oh, we need key schedules. They're very useful. And finally, we're going to do some more complex schedules and do a little bit with formulas, and then also talk a little bit about conditional formatting, things that are going to make your schedules much more useful, not just for construction documents, but for everything that you do. So first of all, we have a variety of types of schedules that are available. Just as I mentioned, scheduled quantities is the main one we're going to look at today. There's also material takeoff schedules that use material information, such as the amount of brick in a wall. Sheet lists that give you a list of sheets, not a big surprise, and view lists that gives you a list of views that are in the project. Those are both very helpful to put together a whole big set of documents and to keep track of different things. There's also something called a note block, which is a form of keynoting, but you have to create a custom annotation element, and I have yet to run into anyone who's using that. But anyway, that is available. And then there's graphical column schedules. That's structural only, and so we aren't going to actually cover that today either. So like I said, we're going to focus mainly on creating building component schedules. So parameters are the building blocks of schedules, and they're type parameters, instance parameters of a specific element, such as the door schedule shown here. So some of these things are individual. Some of these things are fire rating, for example, and door schedules is typically a type parameter, whereas the frame material is typically an instance parameter. So these are the building blocks of schedules, and I do want to recommend a previous webcast that we did back in December called Autodesk Revit Parameters Demystified. And you can find it on our YouTube channel, as Corrine mentioned a few minutes ago, ASCENT CTK, which stands for Center for Technical Knowledge. I just realized that myself the other day, which is kind of silly, but how long have I worked here? But anyway, we are ASCENT, Center for Technical Knowledge. We have a YouTube channel, and that Parameters Demystified is on that. So what I'm going to do, instead of you just looking at a whole series of slides, is I'd like to go ahead and work through one of our practices. And this is the one we're going to do a structural project, and we're going to talk about how to create a building component schedule. And I'll be covering MEP and architectural schedules to give you other examples as we go along. So let me switch on over here to Revit and pull up you can't see this, but I'm pulling up the actual practice so that I can work through it. So I have here an existing building that does not have any schedules yet. So you can see over here there's no schedules in this particular one. And I'm going to create two different schedules for you. Now, when you create schedules, they are available through the View tab on the Schedules pull-down. You can see right over here, Schedule Quantities. Or what I tend to do a lot is actually come over into my project browser down here, and I do right-click New Schedule Quantities. It's just, hey, I'm already thinking about that. I like right-clicks. You'll see me do that a couple times in this. Now, in this particular schedule, this is a structural project, so let me go ahead and get my structural list. It's always nice to be able to filter the list by what kind of work that you're going to be doing. And unusually, I'm actually going to do a multi-category schedule first. And that means it's going to pick up things that are within these various structural items here, but I'm going to be able to do more than one. So I'm not going to call it a multi-category schedule. I'm going to call it a structural, if I can spell it right, schedule. And I'm going to click OK. So the first thing that you need to do when you are working in a schedule is you have your Schedule Properties dialog box and your Fields tab. Because I have multiple categories, I have a ton of choices here. So I'm going to just pull out a few of them. The quickest way to get to something is I just clicked on the left, and then I am typing a T. I wanted to get down here to type mark, and that just is a quick little trick to get to the type mark. And then I automatically went and double-clicked on it before I told you what I was doing. So family and type, I can either pick add parameter, like I will do there, or for this case, I'm going to type in a C, find my count. If I double-click on it, it adds it as well, and so I'm going to add one more. So I have 4 scheduled fields here, and I can use the Move Up and Move Down buttons here if I want to. So there they are, move it down. I'm leaving category in here at the end, excuse me, and I'm using it as a filter category as opposed to one that's actually going to show in my schedule. But before I do that, let me just click OK so you can see the schedule. So it's a very big, long schedule. Some information's in there, some's not. You can see I have structural framing over here. If I come down far enough, I've got rebar, I've got more structural framing, there's foundations. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this. So I definitely need to do more work to this. So I'm going to come over to my properties area in the other section, and I'm going to click on this, let's see, where do I want? Sorting and grouping. Yeah, let's do sorting and grouping. So when I pick on this, it actually opens my Schedule Properties dialog box. So here's my Fields tab. Here's Filter, Sorting and Grouping, which came up automatically because of how I checked it. Formatting, we'll cover that in a little bit, and Appearance. And I'm actually not doing anything in this Appearance tab in these practices, but you can pre-set up some of the schedule properties in here. So, do you want to show titles and headers, and what kind of, text type do you want to use? Excuse me, and these various choices. So you can go ahead and set up the appearance. I'm not going to be doing that in this particular practice. I'm coming back here to my sorting and grouping, though. And there, I just dropped my phone. Hold on just a minute. I'm coming back on with my headset. All right, sorting and grouping. There we should go. I want to sort this one by the header. Let's see, wait a minute. I just got lost because I was going here. Sorting and grouping. Okay, I'm going to sort by category first. There we go. So I want to sort by category, and I'm going to give this a header because I want each of the categories to be separate. And then I'm going to sort by family and type within that. I'm not going to put a header. And once again, I'm going to click OK so you can see the change that we have now. Now you can see here structural columns. All of my structural columns are together. structural foundations are all together, framing, and ultimately down here, the rebar way down there. Back in my sorting and grouping tab, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this itemize every instance. I'm going to turn that off because we have the count feature, so we're going to have a count. We don't need to have each instance itemized. Click that. There we go. It's starting to get a little bit more useful for what I'm doing. Let me just pull out my size there. And like I said, I have the category list over here, but because I'm using these headers, I don't need the category showing. So I'm going to select that, right-click, and select Hide Columns. So that particular filter or field I was only using to get this in place. Now, I still don't need structural rebar. That's not something that I actually want showing in this particular schedule, so I'm going to filter it out. I come over here to my filter and click Edit. I'm going to say Category. So once again, I'm using my category. Does not equal structural rebar. And it's a little hard to find these. These are not in what I would consider, well, they aren't in alphabetical order. I'm not sure what order they're in. But anyway, here goes our category. Does not equal structural rebar. I'm going to click OK. And voila, we're just seeing the information that we were expecting in this particular one. I want to go ahead and show you what happens when we put this on a sheet. So I just opened this schedule sheet, and I'm going to drag and drop my schedule over here. Zoom on in. I want this to be a little bit wider still. It was showing up okay in the other view, but it doesn't show in this one. So here we go, my structural schedule. It's a multiple type, and it's got headers, it's got counts, and separated out into specific categories. Now, one other schedule I want to do is just to show you a different way to filter some things. So I'm going to do a quick one. I'm going to right-click on Schedule Quantities down here, New Schedule Quantities. This one I am going to do specific. I'm going to do a structural foundation schedule. So this one is structural foundations. And I'm going to add my type mark. Let's see, there's type mark. And I'm just double-clicking on these things now to get them across. Let's get type. And I'm going to give some width and length on these. So now I have my schedule fields are in order. I know I want to filter these, though. I only want the ones that have a type mark that begins with. So look at all these lovely options. So when you're filtering, it's not just equals or not equal to. You can do greater than, less than, if it contains, if it begins with, as I'm going to do here. You can limit what you're going to see. And by the way, just real quick before I add this in, so I'm going to put F. Notice I've got two sets here, F1 and F2. I am going to sort by type mark, and I'm not going to itemize, so I'm going to take that off. And right now I'm not worried about anything else. I'm going to click OK. And here's my structural foundation schedule. You can see it's just got the foundations that have the type mark F1 or F2, and it's giving me the other information. Now, if I come into my structural schedule, so I'm reopening my structural schedule, and I'm just going to add the step footing in. I'm going to call it F-3. This is going to change everything, so it's actually a type mark. I click OK there, switch back to my structural foundation schedule, and you can see that because I added that type mark and it was being filtered by that, it added this particular step footing, and all of these, by the way, are spot footings into this. So that's a way that you work with the schedules and the type marks. So next I want to go ahead and talk about updating parameters and formatting using some of the new formatting tools. And before I go there, Corinne, are there any questions that came out in that first little section? It might be helpful to address that before I zoom away.
Yes, I did forget to remind people, and I was just going to send them a note here, that if you do have questions, to put them in. Someone just wanted to make sure, is what you're covering today is Revit LT 2018 included?
Oh, I always forget what's in and what's not in LT. So some of these things are.
Yeah, I think I've looked it up. LT doesn't do embedded schedules. It doesn't do panel schedules, duct and pipe pressure loss reports.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for checking that. And it might be this combined parameters may not be, that's a, faintly remember that, but most everything that we're doing, I think it does.
Okay. Yeah, there's someone who just had checked on that.
Okay.
But I don't see any other questions at this time. Again, I did forget to remind people to put the questions in the chat window or the Q&A. So right now, they'll probably come in after you start again. But
yeah, once I start again. That's always the thing. So I mean, we're still sticking with schedules, so it's not like we're going to go backwards too far.
Right.
So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, a number of tools that are in this section first came out in Revit 2014. And it sounds like a long time ago, but it's actually not. And not everyone has the privilege of updating to the latest version every year like I do, though I would expect there are probably more changes now due to the subscription plan and such. But these formatting tools are very, very powerful in a way to get your schedules looking the way you want them to instead of bland, everyday schedules. So right now, what we've got, let me go ahead and open my schedule sheet. You know, kind of bland, everything's the same height, you know, that sort of thing. But instead what we can do is do a lot more work, and I'm going to focus a lot on this part. This, by the way, is all one ribbon. It was too long. You weren't going to be able to see the tools if I had the whole ribbon, the whole length. But we've got lots of tools for titles and headers and appearances. And I also am going to show you parameters, and then you can make some changes to columns and rows. So to do this, I'm going to go through another practice. This one is we're going to modify some schedules for architectural projects, practice 2D. And we're going to, as you can see, set up our headers, add a few extra things, group some headers together. And let's go ahead and do that. All right. So let me close out my Axiom building. And I'm going to open up Clark Hall Schedules, modify. So in here, what I'm going to do is open up an existing schedule. So down here is my schedules. I have an existing door schedule, an existing window schedule. I'm going to open the door schedule first. And you can see, again, pretty bland. If I come down and take a look at my schedules here, here's what they are looking like right now on the sheet. And by the way, I'm using Control-Tab to switch between views. So if you don't know that particular thing works, instead of having to always go back into my project browser and find the view, I can do Control-Tab. If there aren't too many views open, of course, that can get a little bit crazy. So now what I want to do is I want to modify my title. And first of all, I just want you to see what happens with the title. See those little carrots? That's telling me it is a parameter of some kind. And if I change this and I just say, you know, like level 1 test, notice over here in the project browser it changed the name as well. So don't want that, so let's get rid of that one. But that is something that I can do. I change it in one place, it updates in another one. So what I want to do is add in some additional headers that I'm going to be able to put the project name in and the project number. So I click in my main header, and I'm going to insert rows. Here we go. Insert rows, and I want them to be below the selected row. So it comes in, and never have figured out exactly how it puts as many as it puts in, but anyway, you get as many rows as you have there. And I'm going to merge them together so that I don't have all those individual ones. I want like a group of them, and there's a merge option. So we're going to merge them right here. I'm going to take this set, I'm going to merge that one, and then I'm going to take these two, and I'm just picking and dragging as I go across, and then I pick merge. Now, in these, I can do things like just type. So let's say I want to say project number. That's just typed information. But the really powerful thing is I can add some parameters into these as well. So I'm going to come over here to my parameters area over here, and I've got schedule parameters I can work with, but I've also got project information. You can see right there. And I want to add the project information, the actual project name. So I'm coming in here, adding the project name. It's already been set up. It's called Clark Hall, and it lets me add that parameter. So I'm going to do another one over here. I'm going to get the project number over here. So I come up to my category, project information, parameter, project number, and once again, I have a wonderful project number, 1234.56, and it gets that information. This information is actually found on the Manage tab in the project information. And if I update it here, so for example, Clark Hall Performing Arts Center. So I've got the full project name now. You can see because it is a parameter, it came right on in here and updated. All right. Another thing I'm going to do is group together some additional headers. So this group of headers here that I'm kind of flipping through at the moment, those are all my headers that are created by fields. But I can actually group these together. It's a different method. So I'm going to like drag the width and height across, come back to my Modify Schedule Quantities tab, and I can group them. So now I have these two right here, height and width grouped. I have an additional header, and I'm going to call that door size. Maybe I want another one. I'm going to come over here and drag, whoops, there we go, drag across. You don't want the text highlighted. That won't let you work to drag across. So I pulled those things across. I'm going to group them, pick inside that new header, and I'm going to call this frame information. Now let's take a look at the sheet. Let's see, there we go, door schedule. We've now got a lot more happening. Up here on the door schedule, we have the connections to our project name and project number and some additional headers. But let's get some pretty stuff happening now. Excuse me. What I want to do now is do a little bit of work to my appearance. So I'm going to use some of the tools that are here available on the Appearance panel. I am highlighting the text now because I'm going to change the text. I click Font, and in this case, I want to change the font size, and I'm going to make it bold. I could change the color and all that too, but I'm just going to do those options. And there you go, the door schedule, level 1's up. Let's say these I want to change the font. I want to just leave it the same size, but I want each of them to be bold so they're really standing out. So I come in and I do each of these and set the font to bold. Another thing I can do is I can, shoot, hello? All right, so here we go. Sorry about that. So we have a project number that I've got right now, and I want to have it actually align closer to the number of my text over here. So I can align horizontal and set it to be right. You can see it's now getting closer. I'm going to align horizontal this one and let it be left. So now they're closer to each other, but there's this space or this line in between. I can actually change my borders. So here we're going to change the borders, and I'm going to get rid of this border right here. There we go. And as I click away from it, then you can see my project number looks like it's all in one, but it's actually got text on one half of it and a parameter on the other. So back to our sheet. Let's see. There we go. Now you can see the updates that I have to my door schedule with the heavier text and other things that are working together. So another thing I want to show you that is actually more about a parameter that came out, and I'm sorry, I forgot to look to see what version this came out in a couple of versions ago. You can add images to schedules. So I'm going to do the window schedule now and actually add images. And to open the window schedule, I'm going to double-click on this. Is that not cool? You're in your sheet. You double-click on it, takes you to the view where you need to be. So as I said, what I'm going to do is add in a new parameter or a new field, and I'm going to just show it to you in a different way. I could go into the Fields button over here, but in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this column, and I'm going to insert a column. That, because all the columns are fields, it has to open the Select Field dialog box. So that's just how it works with that. And I'm going to find the image, bring it in, and I'm going to move it up above the type. So I am now adding this image field in, and it's basically empty until you add images. So here I come, and I'm going to, this is a little browse button here. I think you can see it. So when you click inside that, it's a browse button. And that browse button is going to bring up your Manage Images dialog box. Now, if you already have some images in it, you just pick the one you want and add it. But we don't have any images yet, so I'm going to come down here and click Add. I have some images in here. And I'm selecting both of them. I'm going to want both of these images, no reason to add them separately. So I now have a rectangular window and a square window. Let's see, what do I need? Okay, 36 by 72, that's a rectangle. So I highlight that one, click OK, and the image window rectangle is available, but it's not showing the actual image. I'll come down here, this is my square window. I select that image and click OK. And again, it does not show the image in here, but when you switch back to your schedule, there you have the images that are available. So very nice tool. In this case, the image I was using was a instance parameter, but because I have the window schedule set up to just show the ones that are the same, this works just fine, and it applied as was needed. If it type parameter, you can do a type image, but that has to be set up in the family. So if you are wanting to add images to your schedules and you have it in a family, you need to set that the type image in the family. So in this case, it's going to work just fine this way. Oh, that was right. I just remembered one other little thing I wanted to show you with this. In my door schedule, I want to show you one other little filtering trick. If I go into my fields, you see I have one called construction type. So, but it wasn't showing up in here otherwise. What we've got is an issue where our construction type, we have doors that show that are in curtain walls. And so if I come here to filter, you can see I've got construction type does not equal CW. So if I want to change that, I'm just going to delete that for a minute. There you see you can see right up here I have a couple of doors, and I'm going, what are those doors? so they don't have marks, they aren't fixed, doing the rest of the information. I can select one of the rows, so I'm selected in this row right here, click highlight in the model, and then I can find out what it is I've got a curtain wall, double glass that's showing. But when you order curtain walls, they're ordered with the rest of the curtain wall information, not with the rest of the doors. So it would be in a different place. So to modify that, what I did was I just chose construction type. It was kind of like, that's one I'm not using otherwise. And then I did not, it says does not equal, and I used the letters CW for curtain wall. And in that wall, and in that door, see if I can bring that door back up. There we go. In this door, I actually have a, let's see, I think it might be in the type. Let's see. Yes, there it is. So construction type. So in the construction type, you can see here, I had added the letters CW. And that way, it took it out of our door schedule where we don't want it because it's not the right thing to do. So it's just another filter thing. You can use any parameter and then just pull out that, maybe one that you need to add, but it does help you get that information. All right. So before I go into key schedules, do we have any questions about appearances, adding images, other information there?
I don't see any that have come through right now.
Okay. So next things, we're going to talk about key schedules, or schedule keys. I always call them key schedules, but they have the word schedule keys in the term. They allow you to specify information in groups that will apply to multiple instances of an element. A typical use, and the one that I'm going to show you here, is to create a room-style schedule that includes finish information. So you can see right over here, this is the example. I'm going to show you how to put this together in a few minutes. And then in the room schedule, once you've made the schedule key, that schedule key will be available for you to use, and then select from the schedule keys that you have created. So there isn't a specific practice for this, but the topic that talks about it basically works through these examples that I'm going to show you right now. So once again, let's go ahead and close that. I'm going to go ahead and save all that work. That was a lot of work. I don't want to lose it. And I'm going to open up, this is a file that I actually had created, and I added rooms into Clark Hall, so the similar one to what we were just looking at. But now we have rooms that are available that I can add this information to. I've also created a room schedule with just the basics in it. So here's the room number and the room name of what's in these rooms. So right as of now, there is no schedule key for us to work with. And hold on just a sec. All right. So when I work on a schedule key, I'm still using the basic, down here, schedules and quantities, new schedule quantities. So it's still the same kind of choice. And in this case, I need to go get rooms, and that's an architectural use. And I'm going to come on down to rooms. Here's rooms. I've already got a room schedule. Revit knows that, so it's saying room schedule 2. I was like, well, no, I'm going to call this room style schedule. And instead of a schedule building components, I'm going to create a schedule key. It automatically came out and chose room style. So when I named it, it said, well, the key name should probably be room style. Pretty smart little computer program. So now I have fields that are available from rooms. I have project information too, but in this case, I just want my rooms. And there's two main kinds of of options that rooms have. There are things like name, occupancy, occupant, so you have that kind of information about the people that are in the room, or you have the finishes that are in the room, and that's what I'm going to do here. There's already a schedule key called key name, so it automatically made that, and then I'm going to go ahead and add wall finish, floor finish, base, and ceiling. So I'm adding finishes to this particular example. I want to sort and group a little bit. I want to do that by key name. So we're going to do that, but I don't need any headers or anything. I cannot, in this case, change itemize every instance because it doesn't allow me to. And don't need to do any formatting or appearance right now, so I'm going to click OK. When I create a key schedule, there are no information. So if I create a door schedule in or a plumbing fixture schedule or a lighting fixture schedule, column schedule, and there are no elements of those types in the project yet, it'll be empty. But the moment you add the first door or plumbing fixture or column, it's going to be added to the schedule. In this case, I actually have to insert data rows. And you can see here there's an option for that. And I'm going to add, just add several here. Depends on how many you need. And each of the key names comes in just 1, 2, 3. But of course, I want to do something a little bit more useful. So I'm going to type in types of rooms that are in. And let's see, a standard. This and utility. Now, how do you spell utility? U-T-I-L. Oh, there we go. You know what I'm talking about anyway. Utility. Now, for each of these items or these key names, I can specify information about the wall finish. So I'm going to say this is going to be painted. The executive office is going to have wallpaper. We'll have fancy-dancy executive office. Standard office is going to just be painted. Utility is going to be painted. And then you go through and assign the rest of these things. So like the final. And maybe this is going to be the base finish. I'm really typing well today. Ceiling finish, maybe in our corridor that's going to be painted. It's not going to have a finish. Whereas our executive office, maybe he's going to have wood floor with a wood base. He or she, by the way, that was really bad. And we'll just do ACT. So you continue filling out this information that's in this room style schedule. Then I'm going to come back. I now have created some of my key schedule, and I'm going to come back to my room schedule and add in this new option. Now, I'm going to come up here and take a look at my room information and come down here. Notice I have room style. So this is even another way to add additional options. So, whoops, I just changed that one. Whoops, let me undo that. Whoops. I'm going to insert. It's not going to let me do that one. Sorry about that. There's room style. This is a better way to do it so I can get, it's actually replaced to the other one a second ago instead of adding it. All right. Still not adding. Let's get room style. There we go. Not sure why it wasn't working the way I wanted to. But here you can see now I have room styles. I can say, okay, so this office is an executive office. This conference room is an executive office. These next several offices are not executive offices, and so they're going to get standard office material. And if I do select it, there we go. It's going to let me do all of them. No, it's not. It's just going to let me do each one. So I do have to come down and choose each one. Here's a workroom. It's a utility space. There's reception, you know. So as you can see, you just kind of keep on going down and adding in the various things, the type of information that you need. And it goes back to that room schedule. And so you need both of them when you are, you know, putting them on in your construction documents, but at least you don't have to go back and add every single space that has this carpet or that carpet and that sort of thing. So that's how our key schedules work.
Martha?
Yes.
We have a question here regarding key schedules, if you want to take it now.
Yes, that's fine.
Someone has asked, what would be an example for when a key schedule would be useful for MEP? Or is that one we need to address later?
Yeah, well, you know, I'll think about it. I mean, like right off the bat, I'm not coming into one. I know it's used a lot. This example is an interiors example. It's used a lot there because of that sort of information. But I think in most MEP cases, you're getting the information you need from the element itself, and so you may not need to create a key schedule. So I was just actually working on another project on our collaboration tools things and talking about groups and phases. Well, phases was one that's used, but like groups don't work well with systems. So, you know, you just don't use it. So it might be that you wouldn't need it with MEP. If anyone else does come up with an idea and or has tried to use this and want to type that in, we would love to hear it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So here is something that's useful for MEP, and I'm actually going to use the MEP practice to show this. But just to let you know, I am skipping part of what's in the chapter of BIM right now. There is the whole information about parameters that's also in this chapter. So how do you create parameters? How do you do a lot of conditional, I'm going to show conditional, but formulas and other types of parameters. Then we actually cover that in the webinar that I did back in December. And so everything you need to know about parameters, check that out. We are going to I'm going to show you an example of creating a formula parameter. But the main thing I want to show you here is using conditional formatting and also how to embed schedules. And when you're working with some of the tools like this, and we're going to use the embedded schedules. And as Corrine mentioned earlier, this is one of the things that is not available in LT. So you do have to have the full Revit to do embedded schedules, but it's also only available for MEP elements at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and do practice 2H, which is create complex schedules for MEP projects. And we're going to create this space airflow check. And you can see there's some conditional formatting going on, and we're actually going to be adding in some information there. All right, so there's my room schedule. Close that out. And I'm going to open up Office Airflow. And just by the way, so you'll know, this does have a link to it. So there's my Office link. So I want a lot of MEP projects have linked architectural projects in there. There's, a matter of fact, the linked architectural. And let me just move to one of the floor plans. And you can see there's some of our HVAC, which is what we're going to work with at the moment. So I have some existing schedules in this thing. You can see there's a variety of schedules here. But I am going to now create a new schedule, and it's going to be my space airflow check. So I'm going to right-click on the schedule quantities, new schedule. And again, like I said, everything today is the schedule quantities. And we're going to change our filter list to mechanical, get rid of architecture. And we want to use spaces. So our main item here is going to be spaces, but we're also going to add in our air terminals as we go. This is not a space schedule. I'm actually, or it's going to have spaces in it, but it's not the same thing as my space schedule. See here, so it's going space schedule 2. I'm going to name it space airflow check. And I'm scheduling building components, and I click OK. So I'm adding in the number and the name of the space. So I'll remind you that in a minute because we're going to have numbers and names of other things. We're going to do the conditioned type. So there it is, condition type. And then actual supply airflow. So we're going to work on the supply airflow here. There it is. So these are existing parameters. So, and then there's the calculated supply airflow. So lots of parameters you can work with to create usable MEP or any of the different things, but this is all, this particular case for the spaces. Now I am going to create a calculated parameter or one that's a formula. So I'm going to click this button here, is my little FX. And this one I'm going to call airflow check. It is a formula, and I'm going to change the discipline to HVAC. So the choices you get, depending on which discipline you choose, you get different choices. And because it's HVAC, I can actually do airflow as the type. Now, I can type in the formula here. But when you type in formulas, very critical, you need to have the exact spelling, the exact capitalization, all that other fun stuff. So if at all possible, when creating formulas, it's probably better to browse for them. And when I bring up this browse button, it gives me the fields that are available. So you do already have to have the fields in the schedule before you can do these. But in this case, I knew that ahead of time, and so I got it. And I'm going to do my actual supply airflow minus, so I just put the minus sign in there, calculated supply airflow. So I now have a new parameter that's going to automatically grab that information and give me the right answer. Now, just let me get some of this set up. I do want to do sorting and grouping. And I'm going to do that by number, so things are, and that's, remember, space number at this time. And let's see what else I want to do. Okay, now I'm ready to do some conditional formatting. So I want to come over here to formatting. Then this is my formatting tab. And first of all, I'm going to change the number name. So I've got the field highlighted number. I'm going to actually type in space number here. So when I update the, create the schedule, it's going to say space number, and I'm going to do space name here. That's just going to be helpful in the long run. Then I'm going to come down to my airflow check, and this is where I want to do conditional formatting. So I'm going to come here and click conditional formatting, and it knows it's got that field selected because I already did that. And then I need to say, what are we testing? How are we going to do this particular test? And what I want is less than 0. So I want to make sure we've got the right amount of airflow happening in each room. And I'm going to do a nice background color. This is just a default that I've used a lot for years, is this color. It can be any color you want. So each of these, this sets this all up. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to click OK again. And here's my base space airflow check. And you can see there's a lot of problems here. We do have these rooms that are heated and cooled. That's my condition type. But then we have some problems between the actual airflow and calculated airflow. And it's coming out and showing that I have all these rooms with negative airflow needs. Now, the problem is I still need to see more information. It's not giving me all the information I need. What I need now is what's happening to the air terminals. Do we have anything in these rooms? So I'm coming over here now to my Properties dialog box, and notice because this is a MEP that I have the option for an embedded schedule. So I'm going to come here and click Embedded Schedule. I want to add one. I'm going to use air terminals because that's what I wanted to do in this particular case, though you do have other options. And then I need to click here to get the embedded schedule properties. From here, it's pretty much the same sort of thing as we did with other schedules. Now, I'm going to choose system classification because right now we're just talking about the supply, and so we're going to filter out other things. And let's go ahead and get the mark. That's the instance mark of each air terminal. We want to know what kind of air terminal we have, so we're going to do family and type. And then we need to know what is the flow coming out of those. And like I said, I want to filter this. So I'm going to go to my Filter tab by System Classification equals, and notice that I have choices because this particular project already has these. So I want to do this one by Supply Air. And just to make things easier to view, I'm going to sort and group by mark and then by family and type. That's just going to keep things a little bit more organized. Now, in the Formatting tab, I showed you earlier about hiding a field. You can right-click on that field and then hide it. You can also come here and click this hidden field. Whoops, system classification. So I don't need that one to show. I was going, oh no, did I just pick flow and that was the wrong one. But system classification, I needed that to filter, don't need it to show, so I can come in my Formatting tab and hit that right there. Right, click OK. Let's see. Oh, let's see, one more thing I'm going to do here in my formatting. Remember how I had set up the space number and the space name? Well, now we've got another set of numbers and names, and that's our mark here. So instead of calling it mark, I'm going to change it diffuser ID. So it's just a term that might be used in a company. And instead of family and type, that's not a, what's that mean outside of Revit? Nothing. And I'm going to diffuser type. Another cool thing that I can do is I can change the alignments of these. So I'm going to actually do my mark here, my diffuser ID. I'm going to have it aligned to the right. And what that's going to do is help me see it better once I have the embedded schedule in. So let me click OK, click OK again. And now you can see I've got an embedded schedule, and that you can now see especially why I wanted to change those names so that we know what we're talking about here. And my diffuser ID is now to the right, and my number is to the left. So that's just giving me a little bit more information on how that's working. So now I know why, a big reason why, we have a negative airflow check is because there are no diffusers in some of these rooms. Or, like we have here in our hall, we need this much calculated airflow, but we're only right now giving it the 500 CFM. So either we would need to add another diffuser in, or we could, have a really fancy-dancy diffuser that would be like a 750. And whoops, that's still not big enough. Let's do an 850. There we go. Now I've got it way too high because I put too many zeros in. There we go. So you can see how it is. You need to work around, what is the CFM you need to get what you really need, and it works in in most cases, in this case, this was just not a completed project. And as you completed your project, you would come in and see, oh yeah, okay, now we've added something into the vestibule. Okay, now we've added something into Office Space 3, and it will clean up your conditional formatting. So that gives you an example of how to use your conditional formatting as well as how to use an embedded schedule in MEP. So that is what I have for you today. We've created and modified schedules for our basic building components. We made them more readable by using some of the formatting tools. We worked through how to create key schedules, and then we created some more complex schedules